a whistleblower within the some parts of the American government has released in a Telegram group an information from around October 15th to October 16th about the potential Israeli strike on Iran. We don't know what specifically was released. We just have some of the general idea. And as far as we understand, there are no specific sort of things like that's the specific building we're gonna strike, and that sort of thing was released or leaked. It was more of a things like the aerial images of the different Aryan sites, sort of where Israeli preparation is, for example, also so the state of Israeli preparation for the strike, and similar information like this. However little or however much or a lot of information there is, uh, doesn't matter as much as the fact that something was released. This is terrible. There's no way to really go around it. Something like this happening, just not to mention just after Biden has said that he knows the Israeli plans and the fact that they are leaked just a few days after. Really bad PR. Yeah, even if let's say it wasn't like failure on his part, maybe the whistleblower was there for a long time and just wasn't released. It's his administration. It's a big fail on his part. So overall, terrible image and terrible consequences will come out of this. This episode, funnily enough, comes after the yesterday's episode, but where we talked about Israel's greatest ally, where we sort of, to some extent, mock the idea of America being that good of an ally while still being the best ally. The fact is that I think America, from the moral perspective, has failed Israel in many different ways. And this coming out right after that, or I think the first reports about this came out, I think, yesterday, like during night, so just few hours after the episode, which makes it even more hilarious and truly sad, much more. So yesterday, someone was angry at me, sort of saying, mocking the idea that America is Israel's ally. Um, so I think this sort of vindicated me, at least in some way. Um, James, welcome to the Daily Objective. Joining me today is James. James, how do you feel about this? This sucks.
It's outrageous. It's life and death. We're talking about war here. The motives of whoever released this in the U.S. government are obviously suspect. We know that elements of the left hate Israel and do not want America to. They want sanctions on Israel and so forth. And so obviously the main suspect, and we don't know until we know, obviously, for sure, but I would suspect that it was someone who did not have Israel's best interest at heart. And this tells Israel that you cannot trust the United States. Although the United States is the one country in the world who is kind of your ally, they are not a reliable ally. They are not a trustworthy ally. In fact, they can cause you death and harm because they will release secrets of this kind. Now, it is true that we don't know precisely the targets, but at least we know some of the intelligence and Israeli preparation for it. That signals to Iran what is going to happen. Insofar as it signals Iran what's going to happen, it seems to me Israel should surprise the United States. Israel is no longer bound by any, morally speaking, to any agreement they reached with Biden about not hitting nuclear sites or so forth. Indeed, I would go so far as to say Israel really should do something quite different now from what it indicated to the United States. If there were any guarantees, if there were any promises, if there were any suggestions that we won't hit something, there should be a profound surprise to Iran here. And insofar it was any American influence that was restraining Israel from hitting any target, first, they're morally free to completely ignore whatever promises they made to the backstabbers in Washington, D.C., ignore anything that Biden ever said, because of one of Biden's people let this happen. let this happen. So Israel has every grounds and every right to ignore any promises, any pressure from the United States, because this is how the United States, their ally, treats them in a life and death matter. In a life and death matter. It makes it inevitable, it seems to me, that if they just do what they've been expected to do, it's further green light. Now, that's what it is, though. Insofar as Israel does not respond, insofar as America tells Israel to restrain itself, it's giving aid and comfort spiritually to all the bad guys in the region. Getting a big bouquet of flowers to what's left of Hezbollah and a big bouquet of flowers to what's left of Hamas. And don't tell me Hamas has been destroyed when hostages are still there, when hostages have still not been released. We still have Hamas, we still have Hezbollah. And every time Biden says, Israel, pull your punches, Israel, don't hit the nuclear missile sites, don't hit the oil sites, what you're doing is you're sending a big encouragement, a big telegram. Keep up the good work, Hezbollah. Keep up the good work, Hamas. And oh, yes, the Islamic Republic of Iran, you guys keep up doing exactly what you're doing. If that signal is not to be sent, Israel must violate whatever promises that this intelligence report suggests Israel is complying with. Or indeed, Israel must do something different. I mean, this gives Iran time to prepare, to move stuff about, to guard itself against an attack. And that is precisely what this vile, backstabbing member of the United States government has done. And by implication, his boss, Joe Biden, the president of the United States, has done. This requires, in my mind, Israel to do something different. Tactically, strategically, and morally. And I would say go after the nuclear sites, of course. There are independent reasons why Joe Biden is protecting Iran's nuclear weapon program is beyond me. Why we don't take advantage and help Israel now take out those nuclear weapons, which are a threat to everybody in the world, is beyond me, is absolutely insane. So I have independent reasons for wanting, as I've articulated on this channel many times, but it seems to me that whatever this intelligence suggests Israel is going to do, Israel should do something different. It must end insofar as it was a promise to Biden. All those guarantees, promises, assurances should be tossed out the window. Biden does not deserve any promises kept. The United States does not deserve that kind of deference. If the United States is going to stab Israel in the back this way, if we're going to jeopardize Israel's security this way, if we're going to mitigate the effect of whatever attack on Iran is going to happen, and one of the reasons why you do it quickly, it seems to me, and you don't wait, is not only because of the international pressure, but precisely because you can have these kind of intelligence failures from a so-called ally. But if your so-called ally is behaving that way, you owe that so-called ally nothing. In fact, insofar as you warned Iran, you should do something different.
Yeah, all around, this is going to be a terrible situation. The only positive, sort of positive light I could see from this is this has been a long time case that America has pretty much less sort of security when it comes to sort of actually keeping information secret. We know that Israel has been much better at this, and this is not the first time something has leaked. And as I've said, it's a failure, however you look at it, it's a failure of Biden administration. It's a failure of America itself. And so we'll have to, as I've you made a point about how you don't understand why America is not striking nuclear site. It's clear the people don't want it. It's like it's not really that big of a secret. It's a fact that no one wants war, and I think it's very clear when you just look at.
Wait a minute, we're going to bomb Iran. Israel is going to attack Iran. Why not the nuclear facilities? It's not that the attack itself, okay, that's going to cause the general war. Well, if we attack the nuclear sites, that'll really cause them to go to war. Really? No. That is exactly where the logic breaks down. If you're going to attack Iran anyway, attacking their
just
nuclear
quickly,
sites,
James, an average American voter is not me. It's people who don't really look at the way
the
like
average
that.
American voter should realize that we have just betrayed Israel, and we have put Israelis at risk because of this. And of course, obviously, whoever that, I don't care if Biden immediately zeroes in on the person or persons who released this, and of course, what must happen is they must be severely punished, to the extent of the law. Whatever government official released or officials helped release this information are criminals and deserve to be treated as criminals. And perhaps, I mean, if this were America at war, they should be treated under the Code of Military Justice, which would be as harsh as it could possibly be. These people are criminals, vicious criminals in support of Iran, whoever released this. And America should treat it that way. But even if Biden should zero in on these people and punish them, that does not fix the situation for Israel. That does not fix the situation. And you're telling me that the real difference in the American voter's mind is hitting the oil fields, hitting some missile launching spots versus hitting the nuclear weapons are going to make the difference in whether Iran's reaction? No, Iran is going to react, and let's assume they're going to react just as strongly as they can when they get attacked. I mean, it's insane to believe that if we only attack this part of Iran, they won't react. If we were to be attacked, it wouldn't matter whether they attacked our nuclear sites, whether they attacked our civilians, whether they attacked our oil fields. We'd treat
it would matter.
as an attack.
It would matter. Iran has attacked in the past American sites, and America did nothing about it. So the fact is that it does matter. But it was a little bit different when the Houthis attacked international shipping. You actually saw a strong response, at least
to some response. I'll give you that
at least to some extent against the Houthis that stopped them
Obviously,
for a little bit.
Response, but at least a response. No, the Houthis should be wiped out. What are you talking about? Any serious defender of civilization should see that the Houthis are part of Iran's aggression against civilization and wipe them out. Now, I grant you no one sees it in those terms. I grant you that they don't want escalation and war with Iran. But if an attack on Iran is coming anyway, to think that this site versus that site will make the difference is part of the insanity. Part of the insanity. In fact, what you do if you attack them is you don't attack. If I'm going to attack you and I just give you a modest punch that causes you to limp or lose, say, one of your limbs, that's really stupid. If I attack you, I have to make sure you don't attack back at all. So a partial attack is really suicidal. It's stupid. So make sure we leave certain elements of their strength there when we attack them. What? It's not even sound attacking. And to discriminate like that between this site versus that site, as if that will make the difference in Iran's reaction, is baseless. Utterly baseless. There's no grounds to think that if we just hit the missile targeting sites where they would launch the attacks on Israel, that somehow that will constrain Iran in their homicidal intentions in the area. No. In their aggressive intentions? No. In their willingness to get or use nuclear weapons? No. You'd have to explain that to me. And I see no basis for that. No, it seems...
No, I don't. You have to explain that to an average American voter. Again, I always go back to that.
I don't think the average American voter thinks the way you're thinking. Nuclear sites alone?
There is simply no political support for strike against Iran from either side. Neither Kamala Harris nor Trump are saying
that's a failure of leadership to explain the situation. That is a failure on the part of Trump, and that is a failure on the part of Harris, and that is a failure on the part of all of their minions in the media. If we had a courageous politician who'd stand up with a little spine and say, yes, we've been at war, they're killing Americans, they've got hits out on Trump and Pompeo. They've been killing people in our bases in the Middle East. They've been stopping international trade in the Red Sea. It is long since time that we do something about Iran. And if you're going to punch Iran, you don't punch them in a way that will allow them to punch back. That is madness. And the difference is not the site where Israel attacks or where America would attack. The thing that the people in the West don't want, including Americans, is a big out war with Iran. Well, that's a failure of our leadership to explain why we are, for the last 45 years, at war and have been at war with Iran. They've been killing hundreds and hundreds of Americans for decades. And we've long since passed the point where there's a justification for war. They have hits out on Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo. Whatever you think of Donald Trump, the Iranian government have a hit. Literally, they've put prices on the heads of former American leaders. That in itself is an intolerable threat that justifies America using force itself, much less taking away whatever restraint we're putting on Israel in using force. And in any case, insofar as information has been leaked to Iran, it almost requires Israel to do something different, in my view, both morally and tactically.
So, yeah, that is clear. I don't think there's any disagreement when it comes to sort of what morally should be done. It's just really disappointing, the situation we are in, because again, when it came to any of the Gaza operations, when it came to even actions within the Hezbollah, which, something to remember about Hezbollah is that the U.S. Has not been told about most of the actions against Hezbollah. For example, I know his general, right, General Austin. He was very disappointed or very angry that they in fact weren't told about the fact that Israel is targeting Hassan Nasrallah and is doing that during Netanyahu's speech specifically.
Well, that's what America deserves, is not to be told, and this justifies it. You see why we don't tell you guys? Because you guys will signal the enemy that's killing us and killing you, by the way, you dummies. No, Israel, gives the absolute reason for why, and if anyone has any doubt in their mind why Israel can't trust anyone in the world and why they wouldn't even be informing their so-called allies in America, this is the reason. Biden, you don't deserve to know.
Someone in the chat, and we can go to, well, actually, I'll go to that in just a bit. Just to finish the thought about Iran, the fact is, from my understanding and also from sort of watching the Israeli action, it really does seem there is no way of striking or substantially having a response to Iran without the US support. I think that's why we've seen so much talking about it. Now, as I mentioned, now with this leak, this failure, I'm wondering if it will push Netanyahu in sort of like having a bit more leverage, like, putting it, you guys have leaked this, you have to allow us to go stronger to at now, yesterday I was saying 20% oil fields, now I'll give it like 40%. Again, there clearly has to be an action against Iran, and unfortunate state, well, the fact that US support is needed is not unfortunate. What's unfortunate is that US support is needed and they do not want to do it. That's the unfortunate part.
Israel had the capacity to take out Iran without US support now. America is such a pathetic, feeble, traitorous ally to Israel that I absolutely wish Israel had the capacity to utterly take out Iran all on its own right now. But I fear you're correct. I think that truly to take out the regime, say, or to completely take out the nuclear program, say, would probably require US support. That's bad enough. That's bad enough. But now even consulting, now in terms of negotiation with the United States, well, given the fact that you guys are giving our plans away and the intelligence away to the bad guys, you do see why we have to do something different, right? And it wouldn't be negotiation. It would be informing America that unfortunately your mishandling of our trust has required us to do something different. Full stop.
Yeah, that's clear. But again, when you do need the actual US support, it's sort of hard to sort of, hey, I'm gonna go kill that guy because you failed with helping me, but give me your gun so I can do it. You still like need sort of that amount of consent.
It puts the lie to the contradiction that America is trying to put forth. You have a right to defend yourself. We understand if you have to attack Iran back, just don't do it here and here and here.
Well, that has been clear from October 7th.
America is sending a contradictory signal. They don't mean it when they say you have a right to defend yourself. We don't mean it when we say you have a right to attack Iran somehow. We don't mean it. If you attack all out so that the guy can't hit back. And by the way, if we're a real ally, We're going to help. And by the way, our interests are directly involved as well.
Uh, Someone nicely twist my words into saying this guy admits that Israel is toast without the US. Just to clarify, maybe I wasn't clear. What I was saying that when it comes to Israeli, or rather a strong response against Iran, I do believe, from my understanding so far, that US support is needed, and an action by Israel alone, with, let's say, no American bases in the area. So if Israel had to basically use bases in Israel, although something someone mentioned to me, so I'll just mention it. Israel supposedly does have bases in the Kurdish parts of Iraq and Azerbaijan. So there is a possibility there, but from my understanding, it's very improbable, just because Iran has promised a retaliation, which
Anyone
this retaliation came from the weak responses coming from the West. The fact that America has quickly folded on what the retaliation is going to be, as
that's
well
it.
as UK and France.
Right. We tell them not to do, put restraints on them, we handcuff them, we tell them to pull their punches, and that, of course, ignites Iran in its aggressive assertions. Anyone who helps Israel in any attack on us, okay, well, that puts the lie to Great Britain and the United States' claims that Israel has a right to exist. They're saying Israel does not have a right to exist. In fact, they have to endure ballistic missile attack after ballistic missile attack and not get our help, anyone's help, get the assistance of anyone in defending itself. No, that means go die. That's
Uh,
what that means. You don't have a right to defend yourself. We want to see you destroyed, is in effect what Britain and the United States are saying. On one side of their mouth, even as on the other side of their mouth, they say, oh no, Israel has a right to defend itself. Well, that's a big, fat contradiction. And the contradiction is revealed at a moment like this. We release your plans to defend yourself, and that still conditions how you have to, what little pea shooter attack we will permit you to do. Some symbolic, what? That's not going to deter. How could that possibly deter? Iran will continue with their same murderous intentions. They'll just move around their weaponry, move around their leadership. No, you have to actually attack to harm, defeat, destroy, deter. And nothing that the West is permitting Israel to do will do any of that. And listening to Iran's threats. See, the correct response, anytime, if Iran says, if American bases are used to help Israel launch its attack, we'll go after America. Correct. And if you go after America, you're at war with America, Iran. That is the only moral response. Of course, we should have said that 40 years ago. You are at war with us, Iran, and let's act accordingly hereafter. Yes, but if Iran makes threats, see, these very threats are acts of war. These very threats are. So if you help Israel defend itself in any way, you're our enemy. Well, if you say that Israel has a right to defend itself, and then you don't help Israel defend itself, right? Then these threats from Iran are direct threats at you. In other words, they're saying, yes, you're next on the list anyway. Okay. And Britain and America saying, okay, well, just because we're next on the list anyway, doesn't mean that we should lift a finger. No, it's a direct threat against America. It's a direct threat against anyone who might help, any Arab state that might help. Well, so long as we're sending love letters to Hezbollah, so long as we're encouraging and sanctioning Hamas, of course the Arab states in the area are terrified and frightened because of America's policy that says America won't fight back. If we had the moral courage to do that, then of course all these other Arab states, or Azerbaijan, or wherever else Israel might get help from, would be morally empowered to attack Iran. Iran needs to be fully isolated. Fully isolated. And that means people who allegedly speak out of one side of their mouth that Israel has a right to exist join in, because now Iran is widening the threat to anyone who might help this country who allegedly has a right to defend itself. Well, guess what? You've now made an enemy of us as well. That has to be the response. Iran is now threatening you, directly threatening you, America. Iran is threatening you, Great Britain, directly. Iran is threatening you, every single moderate Arab state in the region, directly. The only moral response is a unified response, by the way, which I don't expect to happen, of course, is a unified response against Iran. The blindness of other nations, however, should not stop any one nation from doing what they can do. And what Israel can do is ignore America right now and do something quite different, which seems to me to be both the correct moral position and the only way to have any chance at deterring Iran in any way.
We have a few super chats. So first, thank you, Bull Moose, for a super chat. He says, this happens every time Israel shared info with the US and it leaked every time. Why is this the first time anyone's tackling it seriously? I think the reason why this specifically, and I'm not sure to what extent it was leaked as sort of like uh, in a bad time as this, basically, this is just, basically just one day after Biden said he knows what Israel is going to do. And right after that, you see the actual leak. Really bad PR, however you look at it, and the fact that this is coming, after one of the biggest attacks on Israel has happened. These plans are about the possible retaliation to Iran. So overall, I think it's probably one of the most impactful leaks, at least when it comes to this conflict so far, and definitely when it comes to Israel.
I agree. America is very
Iran, sorry.
America is very poor at keeping secrets, especially compared to Israel. But this is one of the worst that I've ever heard of. And when you look, the last attack on Israel may have been the largest attack by guided ballistic missiles in the history of guided ballistic missiles ever. And so a response is absolutely required. A strong response is absolutely required. And if America, so look, the Biden administration is obviously populated with a bunch of Israel haters. That's why the leak came out. That's why, and Israel has to make the assumption that the people that Biden puts in power and shares these secrets with are not their friends. That has to be the assumption on the part of Israel. And that has to be the assumption on the part of Americans, by the way, when analyzing their own government. Know, my fellow Americans, that the president's administration is filled with people who disagree with the words we believe Israel has a right to defend itself. That's all just window dressing to fool you, ladies and gentlemen of the American population. The Biden administration is loaded with people who do not believe Israel, in fact, has a right to defend itself. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this. I mean, how else does this happen? Seems to me by far the logical conclusion here is that, as we can tell implicitly with everything that Biden says, take the win, don't go into Rafah. Well, if they hadn't gone into Rafah, we wouldn't have the death of Sinwar. Sinwar would be alive if he listened to Biden. Now that we have an accumulation of all of this evidence from the Biden administration and the Biden administration's hostility to Israel, let me put it that way very clearly. The Biden administration supports Hamas to the extent they didn't want them to go into Rafah. They wanted Sinwar. Biden wanted Sinwar to still be alive. Biden wanted Nasrallah to still be alive. Biden wants Iran's nuclear program to continue to develop. Forget what they say. Look at how they act.
We also have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. We have a super chat from Ayn Rand. Thank you so much. He says this has those supporting Israel take Trump more seriously. I'm not sure about the serious part. One thing I would like to mention, because someone mentioned that Trump said Israel should attack the Iranian nuclear sites. And I want to correct myself if I said he doesn't, because I'm not sure if I specifically said that. But what I meant is generally neither side supports or has in the past supported that much retaliation. And, for example, even when Trump was in office, when American bases were attacked, there was pretty much no response from that. But it's a
Trump said he
That's
would
a
blow them to
yeah.
smithereens if they harmed an American or threatened Americans, as opposed to Biden.
Yeah,
Biden
but he
totally
didn't. That's my
responsible.
point. Like words are good, and I'm even just saying that on the moral ground is great to see. Uh,
But
actions
I don't
matter.
expect Trump to take out the regime in Tehran. No, which is what has to happen. Which is what has to. Even Trump doesn't want an escalation and so forth. Even he, but it's but there is a difference here. I mean, I'll take what I can. If it were just as I say, the matter of Iran and Israel, Trump would be superior to some degree, but only to some degree. It's not as though Trump would do what needs to be done and take out the Ayatollah and the mullahs in Iran. No, that's what needs to happen. Um, or expect more Americans and more Israelis to die. It's that simple. We are not properly, morally, or effectively responding, and innocent people will die as a consequence. If we do not take out the regime in Iran, that's what must happen at this point. Anything short of that is almost ensuring more innocent people will die. Iran has been aggressively operating, so aggressively operating. It's an act of over evasion on the part of Western leaders. They're, as I say, they're supporting the nuclear program in Iran. They're supporting more Iranian terrorism and killing and death. There's no other way to interpret it. By saying don't go into Rafah, they wanted Sinwar to still be alive, apparently. And if that's your ally, it's time to ignore your ally as much as possible. And
Uh,
hope,
s-
if you were Israel, I can imagine Israel hoping that Trump at least gets elected. That alone would be, at least from their perspective, a better outcome. A marginally better outcome, I grant you, but a better outcome. That does not mean that I morally support Trump in other respects. But in this way, at least he's marginally better than Biden.
we also have a super chat from PC. Thank you so much. He says, James, US is in decline. I saw pro-Iran regime flags in LA in August. Uh, I guess
America has
I could
been
see that.
culturally in decline
I
for
would
some
really
time.
be interested in what context that was.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, generally,
most of the Iranians I know, and there is a large Iranian population in Southern California, and most of the Iranians that I know are actually very opposed to the regime of the mullahs. But it would not surprise me at all, of course, insofar as America morally sanctions Islamicism, which is what Biden is doing with all of these handcuffing lines he puts out. We encourage them, we foster them, we're blowing on the embers of Islamic fanaticism and keeping it alive morally, not to mention materially, by pulling our punches. Precisely. America has been in cultural decline for many decades now.
we have a super chat from Alejandro. Thank you so much. He says, sadly, Ukrainian, Taiwanese, or Israeli governments should take US support with a pinch of salt, regardless of which party wins elections. So I'm not
And
worried that much about that. I think the current attitude is that all of these, so Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan, will sort of have enough support in the US to sort of be kept alive, even if it means to be on life support, but you won't see a decisive sort of support to actually finish. So
America
you'll
is a
see,
rotten ally, and their alliance with you may well keep you at war with your enemy in perpetuity.
which is still better than losing that war. I just wanna, any American support is still great. The disappointing fact is that sort of the stance is just to keep the status quo, like not go too far into that way, not go too far into this way. So we will send aid to Ukraine. We will support Ukraine. We will send aid to Israel. We will support Israel. We will protect Taiwan, but we won't allow Ukraine to actually strike within Russia. We won't allow Israel to fully occupy Gaza or to fully destroy Hezbollah or to fully attack Iran. And so thankfully, nothing is happening with Taiwan yet. But I assume if something happened, we might even see some basically not what we would consider full support happening there. The problem, I think, different when it comes to China. When you see sort of American indecisiveness or sort of small support, what's really sort of dangerous is when China feels like it can get away with something. That's the problem. That's when the sort of the when the American deterrence stops working. That's when you're a problem. And I think that's one of the reasons, or that's a possible reason why Russia felt very confident in attacking Ukraine, is because I don't think they expected the Western support to be fully behind Ukraine. Thankfully, it was.
Right.
But the fact that Putin felt like that might not be, that's a dangerous thing, because
Given the way policymakers talk in the West, does it surprise you Putin thought he could get away with it? Or, given the way that American policymakers talk about Iran, does it surprise you that Iran still behaves the way it does? No, it's precisely that. It's that kind of weakness that gives the green light to these bad guys in doing what they're doing. Look at the reaction. If you have a half-hearted, half-assed reaction, of course, it almost vindicates their position in the first place. Only now, with Ukraine going into Russia, do we even begin to see that there might be some other kind of option here, taking it straight to Russia. Similarly, if we took it correctly straight to Iran with American help, that would be the only thing that would give the bad guys some pause in future when they want to attack some innocent neighbor, comparatively innocent neighbor. Yeah.
Which actually, now that I'm talking about it, it reminded me not much talk was there about Ukraine when it comes to the current presidential election, which is kind of
No,
surprising, because
no,
that I think it's even much more polarizing than when it comes to Israel. I think on Israel,
very much.
I think it's much, the two candidates are a bit closer than when it comes to Ukraine, unless something has changed with what Trump has
I
been.
think Trump is weaker on Ukraine than Harris is, and I think Trump is stronger on Israel than Harris is. But that's an unfortunate
No,
uh,
I'm not like trying to
part of
put him down or something. I was just thinking out loud that it's surprising that I haven't heard either candidate talk that much about Ukraine
right.
than about Israel. So just
Much less on the radar screen of American voters as we approach this presidential election. Yeah,
uh, uh, just quickly, someone says we are traders of this country, and he says let Israel pay for its own wars. Well, what America is doing is paying Israel for its wars. It's paying Israel for fighting the wars that America should have been fighting for a long time now. Again, there are American hostages held by Hamas. Hezbollah has attacked the barracks in America, has killed hundreds of American soldiers. Houthis have been attacking international shipping, many of them being American ships. Iran has been attacking American soldiers, and even if you go further, has took American hostages. So this is not something. This all of these groups are not some America has a neutral relationship with them. All of these have attacked America directly, and America supporting Israel is just a different way of America actually engaging in war against these nations, which would be a proper
if
stance.
Israel did not exist, Iran would still want America dead. We'd still be the great Satan, as they put it. The fact of our support of Israel is not what causes Islamicists to hate America. Islamicists hate America, and anything civilized and anything that America might support is just the thing in the way. As you point out correctly, Israel is fighting the war for civilization. Israel is fighting the war for Great Britain. Israel is fighting the war for the United States. And what a thankless task they have, too, being the people between us and those who want to kill us in any event. If you're so naive as to believe that it's our support for Israel that causes Muslims to hate us, I would ask you to check your premises. Israel is only in the way. If Israel were not there, these Islamists would come straight for America. It wasn't, people often say 9/11 was blowback for America's support for Israel. That is sheer nonsense. All the reasons why they hate Israel are all the reasons why they hate America. I mean, the complete overlap. They hate civilization. They want a worldwide caliphate. They're aggressive. They took American diplomats hostage when they took over. Uh, they will go on killing and killing, and if they can, go after America and Great Britain after Israel is destroyed, should they succeed in destroying Israel. No, take them at their word. Take them at their word. America is the great Satan. The greater enemy than Israel. If Israel weren't even on the scene, we'd still be the great Satan, folks.
We have a super chat from Staff. Thank you so much. He says 180 missiles on Israel is proportionally equal to 80,000 on the US. I assume it's like geographically, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how you're calculating that. The
America
size
is much.
is it by
I don't think
population?
it's size
By
of population, because that's only maybe like 30 times more or something. I think Israel has like 8 to 10 million. So it might be just a area. Either way,
But it
it's
is a
definitely,
vast.
yeah.
But it is a that I can't think of a ballistic missile attack that has been bigger in the history of cruise missiles. If you can think of one in recent decades that surpasses Iran's attack on Israel, please let me know. But it is, by any measure, one of the most severe, if not the most severe, guided ballistic missile attacks in the history of guided ballistic missiles. Yeah, it requires a response, and the entire world is threatened by it. And the entire world is threatened by it. And insofar as the world doesn't recognize and act as though they've been threatened by this attack by Iran on another nation, the United Nations, of course, is the entire premise of it is a joke. The entire premise of a country having a right to defend itself is a joke if we do not assist Israel in a response to Iran. This should be morally obvious to people, and existentially will pay the consequences if we don't recognize this moral truth.
People are saying it's geographic. Yeah, I think it's most likely geographic. With that, thank you everybody for watching. We have the reality show Extra coming up about 13 minutes ago, but we'll start in about 2 minutes or so. We're gonna be talking about Sindwar and how he died like a coward, because the way people talk about him dying like a hero, I find it very objectionable. I find it very middle-aged way of what it means to be a hero and what it means to die like one. And also, you don't die like a hero; you live like a hero. But for more on that, join us on the reality show Extra. Thank you, James, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you in just about 1 minute or so on the reality show Extra. Bye bye.
Be safe.